We live in an age of overwhelming abundance. Every day we have infinite entertainment, instant communication, and bottomless feeds of digital content. Yet, globally, rates of depression, anxiety, and psychological despair are climbing faster than ever. For millennia, our biology evolved for severe constraints. Finding basic calories required immense daily physical exertion across harsh landscapes. As the researcher Tom Finucane courts it, we are cacti in the rainforest. Our neurological reward systems, perfectly tuned to keep us motivated in a world of extreme scarcity, are now completely flooded in a modern ecosystem of limitless, highly potent rewards. Take the smartphone. It serves as a modern-day hypodermic needle, meticulously engineered to deliver continuous hits of digital dopamine for a wired generation. Because these ancient survival mechanisms have been weaponized against us, we are rapidly losing our baseline ability to tolerate even the most minor, everyday discomforts. Consider a patient named Jacob. He is a highly educated, financially stable professional living a privileged life in Silicon Valley. He challenges the common assumption that severe compulsion only takes root in those with childhood trauma. Over several years, what began as mild online curiosity systematically escalated. The internet provided limitless novelty, accelerating his habits into a deeply entrenched, unmanageable compulsive loop that threatened to destroy his career. Even addiction experts fall into this trap. Dr. Anna Lemke, the psychiatrist who treated Jacob, realized she had developed her own consuming dependency on digital romance novels, reading them compulsively between patient sessions. When a high-functioning scientist and a medical professional succumb to the same compulsive patterns, it suggests a vulnerability inherent in our biology. Solving this requires looking past the narrative of character flaws to identify the specific physiological mechanics at play. Neuroscientists measure the addictive potential of any experience using a single chemical currency, dopamine. Contrary to popular belief, dopamine is less about the subjective feeling of joy itself and more about the biological drive of motivation and wanting. This chart maps dopamine levels in a laboratory animal's brain over time. Notice how the highest spike occurs right here at the peak, immediately after the rat sees a light, the unpredictable cue, well before it actually receives the drug. This anticipatory spike points to a critical neuroscientific discovery. The human brain processes both pleasure and pain in the exact same overlapping regions. This diagram illustrates how those regions operate like a physical balance scale. When you consume high-reward digital content, dopamine is released, and the scale forcefully tips to the side of pleasure. But biological systems fiercely protect their equilibrium. Every time you force the scale toward pleasure, you trigger an equal, mathematical, and physiological reaction driving it back toward pain. Looking at this visual, you can see the brain's homeostatic defense mechanism in action. As the scale tips toward pleasure, the brain deploys physiological gremlins to jump on the pain side, pulling the lever back to level ground. Here is what happens next. With chronic, heavy consumption of high dopamine stimuli, the brain is forced to drastically multiply these gremlins, even bringing in a U-Haul truck to survive the chemical barrage, permanently pinning the scale to the pain side. This biological trap is called neuro-adaptation, which often leads to anhedonia, a condition where this heavily weighted pain scale strips you of your capacity to feel joy from ordinary, everyday experiences. When you finally put the phone down or step away from the screen, you drop into an immediate dopamine deficit. You feel it as a sudden wave of anxiety, intense craving, and psychological dysphoria. In this advanced state of neuro-adaptation, consumption serves a single physiological purpose, alleviating the distress of the dopamine deficit to return the brain to a temporary state of normalcy. To break this loop and reset the physical reward pathways, the primary clinical prescription is a rigid 30-day dopamine fast. This period of abstinence starves the system, forcing those pain-side gremlins to pack up and leave. Be prepared. During the first 2 weeks of this fast, your brain will scream for equilibrium. You will predictably experience intense emotional withdrawal, restlessness, and heightened anxiety. Do not rely on internal willpower alone. Willpower is mathematically useless against a digital environment engineered by thousands of designers, specifically to break your focus. Instead, Implement a protocol called self-binding. This means erecting strict physical, chronological, and categorical barriers between yourself and your specific digital triggers. Manually engineering friction between a biological urge and its immediate satisfaction has become a prerequisite for maintaining control over our own attention. Once you create that space, you can actively rebuild a healthy balance through hormesis. This is the scientific phenomenon where subjecting your body to mild, intentional pain actually benefits the brain's chemical equilibrium. This final diagram shows hormesis at work. When you expose yourself to intentional physical stressors, the gremlins react to the pain stimulus by jumping to the pleasure side of the scale, releasing healthy, enduring dopamine. Activities like a freezing cold shower or pushing yourself up a steep, rocky trail represent the pursuit of productive discomfort. This exertion forces your biology to adapt and naturally recalibrate. You must also practice radical honesty. The destructive cycle of secrecy and shame drives us deeper into digital escape, whereas openly sharing our flaws within a community heals those neural pathways. Rigid boundaries and intentional discomfort restore the brain's baseline sensitivity. By bringing the balance back to level, the neurological system regains the ability to process the rewards found in an ordinary, undigitized life.